Ever notice how your greatest growth came from your worst pain? How the people who hurt you the most taught you lessons no friend ever could? How betrayal revealed truths that loyalty kept hidden? What if I told you that your enemies are the most valuable teachers you'll ever have? I am about to flip everything you believe about the people who've wronged you. The betrayers, the manipulators, the ones who stabbed you in the back. You've been taught to hate them, avoid them, and wish they'd never entered your life. But that reaction is keeping you weak, and they're keeping you strong. Think about who you were before your worst betrayal. Naive, trusting, blind to danger signals. Think about who you became after wiser, sharper, able to see threats coming. That transformation didn't come from a self-help book. It came from someone who hurt you. They taught you what no one else could. Here is what the powerful understand that the weak never learn. Every enemy is a classroom. Every attack is a curriculum. Every person who tries to destroy you is inadvertently building you. They don't mean to make you stronger, but they do, every single time. Machiavelli observed this pattern 5 centuries ago. He watched how rulers who faced no opposition grew soft and fell, how leaders who survived challenges emerged invincible, how the very forces meant to destroy became the forces that fortified. Your enemies work the same way. By the end of this video, you'll see everyone who has ever hurt you differently. You'll understand exactly what each enemy taught you. You'll know how to extract maximum wisdom from future attacks. And you'll actually become grateful for the pain that made you who you are. Are you ready to thank your enemies? Drop this affirmation in the comments. My enemies are my teachers. Number 1. The education only enemies provide. Here is a truth that comfortable people never learn. Friends show you who you want to be. Enemies show you who you actually are. And knowing who you actually are is far more valuable than pleasant illusions. Friends are kind. They soften feedback. They protect your feelings. They tell you what you want to hear. This feels good but teaches little. Enemies are brutal. They expose your weaknesses without mercy. They attack where you are vulnerable. This hurts but teaches everything. When an enemy defeats you, they've given you a gift. They've shown you exactly where you need to improve. They've identified the gap in your armor that you didn't know existed. They've provided a roadmap for your development that no friend would ever draw. Machiavelli wrote, "Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." Your enemies see through your appearance to your reality. They find the weaknesses you've hidden even from yourself. This brutal honesty is priceless. Think about the most important lessons you've learned in life. How many came from pleasant experiences? How many came from painful ones? Pain is the teacher that gets results. Comfort is the teacher that produces complacency. Your enemies deliver the pain curriculum. Here is what enemies teach that friends cannot. They teach you who will betray you by betraying you. They teach you what manipulation looks like by manipulating you. They teach you how attacks feel so you can recognize them coming. Experience is the teacher. Enemies provide the experience. Robert Greene observed, "The value of enemies is that they keep you alert. They keep you focused. They keep you on your toes. Friends let you relax into weakness. Enemies force you into strength. Which environment produces better results?" Drop this affirmation in the comments. Pain is my curriculum. Here is an exercise that transforms how you see your history. List your 5 greatest enemies. Next to each, write the lesson they taught. The pattern will shock you. Your most painful relationships delivered your most valuable education. Your worst enemies became your best teachers. The people who loved you protected you from discomfort. The people who hurt you exposed you to reality. Both have value. But only one creates strength. Only one prepares you for a world that doesn't care about your comfort. Number 2. What betrayal teaches about trust. Let's talk about the most painful teacher of all. Betrayal. The moment someone you trusted destroys that trust, it feels like death. But it is actually birth. Birth of wisdom you couldn't have gotten any other way. Before betrayal, you trusted blindly. You assumed loyalty. You took people at their word. You believed what you wanted to believe. After betrayal, you trust intelligently. You verify loyalty. You watch actions more than words. You believe what evidence supports. Every betrayer teaches you something specific. The friend who gossiped teaches you who not to confide in. The partner who cheated teaches you what warning signs look like. The colleague who backstabbed teaches you how office politics really work. Each betrayal is a specialized course. Machiavelli understood betrayal deeply when he wrote, "Men are so simple and so ready to obey present necessities that he who deceives will always find someone who will allow himself to be deceived." Before betrayal, you were the deceived. After betrayal, you became the one who sees through deception. Here is the counterintuitive truth. The people who never get betrayed never develop betrayal detection. They remain naive their entire lives, vulnerable to the first sophisticated manipulator who finds them. Your betrayals were vaccinations, painful in the moment, protective forever after. The most trustworthy judges of character are people who've been deeply betrayed. They've learned what to look for. They've developed instincts that comfortable people lack. Their pain purchased perception that nothing else could buy. Think about your worst betrayal. What did it teach you? Who did it reveal? What pattern did it expose? Write these lessons down. They cost you dearly. Don't waste them. Let the pain purchase permanent wisdom. Drop this affirmation in the comments. Betrayal taught me to see. Number 3. Enemies reveal your true friends. Here is something beautiful that only enemies create. They show you who your real friends are until crisis arrives. You don't know who will stand with you. Your enemies create the crisis that sorts allies from opportunists. When everything is good, everyone is your friend. When enemies attack, the tourists disappear. The real ones remain. This sorting couldn't happen without opposition. Your enemies perform a service by creating conditions that expose fair-weather friends. Think about who stayed when you were under attack. Who answered when you called? Who showed up when showing up was costly? These are your true allies. You wouldn't know them without the enemies who created the test conditions. Machiavelli wrote, "The first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him." Your enemies help you estimate who should be around you. They separate wheat from chaff. They reveal who belongs in your inner circle. The powerful deliberately create small tests before major crises. They observe who remains loyal under minor pressure. This predicts who will remain under major attack. Your enemies, by attacking, run these tests automatically. They sort your relationships without you having to. Here is the gift, hidden in enemy attack. You lose fake friends and gain certainty about real ones. The math works in your favor. Fewer relationships, but higher quality. Less people, but more trust. Your enemies trimmed your social garden of weeds. Robert Greene noted, "Know who you are dealing with. Do not offend the wrong person." Your enemies teach you who you are dealing with by forcing reactions that peaceful times hide. This knowledge is worth more than the comfort of never being attacked. Drop this affirmation in the comments. Enemies reveal my allies. Here is a practice the powerful use after every crisis. Document who showed up and who disappeared. This record becomes invaluable. It tells you who deserves your inner circle and who belongs in your outer orbit. Let enemies sort your relationships through the pressure they create. Some people say they have no enemies. This isn't a blessing, it is a warning. Without enemies testing your relationships, you don't know which connections are real. You are surrounded by unverified allies. Any of them could be fair, whether friends waiting for crisis to reveal them. Number 4. Opposition builds strength. You can't buy, Here is the physical and psychological truth that comfort seekers never understand. Strength only develops through resistance. Muscles grow by being torn. Character grows by being tested. Your enemies provide resistance you can't get any other way. Think about the person who has never faced serious opposition. They're weak, untested, fragile when pressure finally arrives. Now think about the person who has survived multiple enemies. They're hardened, proven, capable of handling whatever comes. Which person would you rather be? Every enemy attack you survive makes the next attack easier to handle. You've been there before. You know what it feels like. You know you can take it. This confidence is earned, not given. It is purchased with the currency of endured pain. Nietzsche said, "What does not kill me makes me stronger." This isn't just philosophy. It is neurology. Your brain literally rewires after trauma to be more capable of handling similar situations. Your enemies are rewiring your brain for strength. Machiavelli observed that rulers who inherited peaceful kingdoms often fell quickly when challenged. Those who fought for their thrones could hold them. The fight itself was the training. Your fights with enemies are your training for the challenges ahead. Here is what enemies build in you that comfort cannot. Crisis management skills, emotional regulation under fire, strategic thinking when stakes are high, recovery capability after defeat. These capacities don't develop in comfortable conditions. They require the pressure that enemies provide. The strongest version of yourself exists on the other side of opposition you haven't faced yet. Your enemies are the bridge to that version. They provide the resistance training that transforms potential into actual power. Drop this affirmation in the comments. Opposition builds me. Consider the people who've achieved what you want. How many got there through comfort? Almost none. They got there through opposition, through enemies who doubted them, through obstacles that seemed insurmountable, through pain that felt unbearable. The opposition was the path. Here is the uncomfortable truth. If you have no enemies, you are probably not doing anything important. Meaningful action creates opposition. Significant achievement attracts attackers. The absence of enemies might indicate the absence of impact. Let enemies confirm you matter. Number 5. Attacks clarify your values. Here is something surprising about enemy attacks. They force you to decide what you actually believe. Under pressure, you discover whether your values are real or just theoretical. Enemies create the pressure that reveals truth. In comfortable times, everyone has values. Everyone claims principles. Everyone believes they do the right thing under pressure. But comfort doesn't test these claims. Only crisis does. Your enemies create the crisis that proves or disproves what you believe about yourself. When attacked, you discover what you'll fight for, what you'll sacrifice for, what you'll risk for, what you'll endure for. These discoveries tell you who you really are, and knowing who you really are is worth more than any comfortable illusion. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." Enemies force you to be one or not be one. The argument ends. The test arrives. You pass or fail based on actual behavior, not comfortable theorizing. Here is what enemy attacks have clarified for people throughout history. What matters most, what they'll sacrifice, what they won't compromise, where their lines are, who they become under pressure. These clarifications are gifts, even if the process is painful. The most authentic people you'll ever meet are those who've been severely tested. They know who they are because crisis forced self-knowledge. They don't wonder what they do under pressure. They know because they've been there. Enemies provided the exam. Machiavelli noted that true character only emerges in difficulty. Easy times reveal nothing. Hard times reveal everything. Your enemies create the hard times that reveal who you truly are. That revelation is priceless. Drop this affirmation in the comments. Attacks clarify my values. Here is what you should do after every significant attack. Ask yourself what you fought for, what you protected, what you wouldn't surrender. Write it down. These are your real values, proven under pressure. They're more reliable than any comfortable philosophy. The most dangerous people to themselves are those who've never been tested. They have theoretical values that might collapse under actual pressure. They have assumed identities that haven't faced real challenge. Enemies provide the test that theoretical people avoid. Your enemies do you the favor of forcing authenticity. You can't pretend under attack. You can't maintain false identity when survival is at stake. The you that emerges from enemy assault is the real you. Thank them for the introduction. Number 6. Enemies motivate like nothing else. Let's talk about fuel. The energy that drives achievement. Friends provide encouragement, which is nice. Enemies provide something more powerful. They provide the burning desire to prove them wrong. Think about your greatest achievements. How many were motivated by proving doubters wrong? How many were fueled by people who said you couldn't? The enemies who dismissed you might have provided more motivation than the friends who supported you. This is dark psychology, but it works. The desire to prove enemies wrong is one of the most powerful forces in human achievement. It burns longer and hotter than positive motivation. It turns insults into rocket fuel. Machiavelli wrote, "There is no avoiding war. It can only be postponed to the advantage of others." Applied to motivation, there is no avoiding enemies. They can only be transformed into fuel. The question isn't whether you'll have enemies, it is whether you'll use them. The most driven people often have the most vivid enemies. Not because successful people attract more opposition, though they do, but because opposition itself drives success. The enemies create the motivation that creates the achievement that creates more enemies. Here is how to use this strategically. Keep a mental list of everyone who doubted you, every dismissal, every rejection, every bet against you. When motivation wanes, review the list. Let the desire to prove them wrong reignite your drive. Robert Greene wrote, "Always make your accomplishments seem effortless. But secretly, let your enemies fuel the effort. Let their doubt drive your work. Let their dismissal power your persistence. Convert their negative energy into your positive results." Drop this affirmation in the comments. Doubt fuels my drive. The psychology here is profound. When you achieve to prove yourself to yourself, the motivation is internal and can fade. When you achieve to prove enemies wrong, the motivation is external and constantly renewed. Every time you remember their doubt, the fire reignites. Some people try to forgive and forget their enemies. This is noble but wasteful. Better to remember and use them. Keep their doubt alive in your memory, not for resentment but for fuel. Let them drive you long after they've forgotten about you. The greatest revenge isn't destruction of your enemies. It is becoming so successful that their doubt looks ridiculous. It is reaching heights they said were impossible. It is proving them wrong so thoroughly that history records your achievement and forgets their skepticism. Number 7. The ultimate reframe transforms everything. Here is the final piece that changes how you experience enemies forever. Every person who has hurt you was playing a role in your development, not intentionally but effectively. They were teachers in disguise. Think about who you'd be without your enemies. Without the betrayer who taught you discernment, without the competitor who pushed you harder, without the critic who made you better, without the obstacle who forced you to grow, you'd be less than you are. The reframe that transforms everything is this. Enemies aren't problems to be eliminated. They're professors to be learned from. Attacks aren't injustices to be resented. They're lessons to be absorbed. Opposition isn't misfortune. It is curriculum. Machiavelli wrote, "The wise man does at once what the fool does finally." The wise response to enemies is immediate gratitude for the lessons. The fool's response is prolonged resentment that teaches nothing. Choose wisdom. Thank them now. This doesn't mean enemies are good people. It doesn't mean attacks are pleasant. It doesn't mean betrayal is acceptable. It means you can extract value from experiences regardless of the giver's intention. You can learn from teachers who didn't mean to teach. Here is the practice. For every enemy, ask these questions. What did they teach me? How did they make me stronger? What would I not know without them? What capability did they force me to develop? Answer honestly and watch resentment transform into something useful. The ultimate power move is thanking your enemies. Not to their face necessarily, but in your own heart. Thanking them for the lessons, for the strength, for the clarity, for the fuel. This gratitude frees you from the prison of resentment while keeping all the benefits they inadvertently provided. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart." This includes enemies. They were fate's teachers. Love the lesson even when you can't love the teacher. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I thank my enemies. Here is what happens when you fully embrace enemies as teachers. When you see every attack as education. When you extract lessons from every painful experience. When you thank the people who hurt you for what they taught you, everything changes. First, resentment disappears. You can't resent a teacher, you can only learn from them. When you see enemies as educators, the poison of hatred drains away. You are left with wisdom instead of wounds. Second, you stop fearing opposition. When attacks become lessons, they lose their terror. You almost welcome them because you know you'll emerge stronger. The fear of enemies transforms into curiosity about what they'll teach. Third, you become genuinely stronger. Every enemy interaction becomes productive. No more wasted experiences. No more pointless suffering. Everything gets recycled into growth. Your efficiency of development multiplies. Fourth, enemies lose power over you. When you are grateful for their teaching, they can't hurt you anymore. Their attacks become gifts you receive rather than wounds you suffer. You've inverted the power dynamic completely. Fifth, you become anti-fragile. This is beyond resilience. Resilience means you survive attacks and return to baseline. Anti-fragility means you actually improve from attacks. Every enemy makes you better. Every attack upgrades you. You are not just surviving, you are being enhanced by opposition. This is the ultimate state, where enemies aren't just manageable, but actually desirable. Where you almost hope for opposition because you know what it produces. Where you view attackers as unwitting trainers investing in your development. If you've made it this far, you understand something that most people never grasp. That the people who hurt you most taught you most, that your enemies served purposes your friends couldn't. That pain was always the price of growth. Most people will spend their lives resenting those who wronged them. They'll carry bitterness that poisons only themselves. They'll waste energy on hatred that produces nothing. But not you. You've learned to transform enemies into teachers. If this video transformed how you see the people who hurt you, smash that like button. If you know someone trapped in resentment toward their enemies, share this with them. And if you want more content that turns pain into power, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Now drop this final affirmation in the comments. My enemies made me. Remember, in a world where most people waste their enemies through hatred, the one who learns from opposition gains all the value. Be that person. Thank your teachers. Extract every lesson, and watch how everything changes when you realize the people who hurt you were actually building you all along. Because every scar is a credential. Every wound is a wisdom mark. Every person who tried to destroy you contributed to who you've become. They didn't mean to help you, but they did. And the least you can do is learn the lesson they paid to teach. Starting today, look at your enemies differently. See the betrayer as the trust professor. See the competitor as the excellence coach. See the critic as the improvement consultant. See the obstacle as the strength trainer. They all taught you. Now graduate. The wisdom from your enemies is already inside you. The strength they built is already there. The lessons they taught are already learned. All that remains is recognizing the education you've already received. Acknowledge your teachers, even the ones who taught through pain. Now, go thank your teachers, not with words to their faces, with success in your life, with strength in your character, with wisdom in your decisions. Let your victory be your gratitude. Let your growth be your acknowledgement. They taught you well, now prove it. Class dismissed.